Good evening. We're learning as chus for Shleima Filan Chai Baserach. We're on Kuf Tes Amid Beis. We're going to review the Mishnah, 6 lines from the top. HaKaimitz v'halavayna. Kaimitz is the portion of a mincha, not a minchas kayin that's fully burnt, but a regular mincha. You take a kaimitz and you burn it on the mizbeach. V'halavayna, and the lavayna, which is that substance that comes along with the kaimitz that gets burnt along with it. V'aktairis, we're going to see exactly which ketairis. That's hotly debated in the Gemara. Which ketairis we're talking about? There are 2 ketairis. There's a ketairis of every day. They do a pras in the morning, I think, and one at night. That's bachutz. And then there's the ketairis that's done on meaning in the heichel. And then there's another ketairis that's brought on Yom Kippur, bifnim. So if someone took that ketairis, or minchas kehanim, like we said, minchas kehanim, the whole thing gets burnt on the mizbeach, so it's not bedafka the kaimitz, it's the mincha itself. Or minchas kayin mashiach, the minchas chavitim that the kayin gadol brings every day, or minchas that also gets burnt, or minchas nesachim, and the nesachim that go along with a carbon. That, when every carbon, not every carbon, but there's many carbonates that you bring a mincha together with the nesachim, so that those menachas, which also gets burnt, shehikrev me'achas mehen kazayis b'chutz, if someone was makrev even a kazayis of these b'chutz, yechayev. Rabbi Elazar poiter achi yakrev es kulam. Elazar says, no, you're not chayev for being makrev this b'chutz, unless it's not just enough for kazayis, you have to be makrev the entire thing. So the Gemara is going to say exactly what we're talking about as far as the ketairis is concerned, but in general, the point over here is that the Rebbe Elazar says the Torah darshaned that you have to bring, the Torah says oisai, that tells you have to bring whatever the smallest shear of that carbon is. So he says, since the smallest amount of an oila that you could be makrev on the mizbeach is a kazayis, which the truth is you already got your kapara before you bring it, but the amount you could bring on the mizbeach is a kazayis. So you're going to be chayiv for that. But Lagabi, these things, in order to do the full haktara, in order to do the haktara, you have to do the whole thing. And because that's the halacha. The halacha is the gabi menachas, and these other things that are supposed to be burnt, these non-dam, non-zevach hakrovas, we learn in the Gemara. The Gemara Menachas says, Rashi brings in the Gemara Menachas that they have to be fully burnt. If you're not going to burn the whole thing, you're not allowed to be makrev it.
And Tanakam, who is Machayev?
So then, what does the Tanakama hold? They say they agree that you have to bring the whole thing, but they say even so, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be chayiv for bringing just the kazayis, because they say if one wanted to, they could just be makrev a kazayis at a time, and then go ahead and be makrev another kazayis later. So you're not precluded from bringing kazayis of the kaimitz or the kazayis of the ketairis at one time. So if you even take the kazayis outside, you're also going to be chayiv for that. Okay, well, this is going to be altered, or we're going to specify this a little bit more in the Gemara. Where exactly we're talking about. For Kulan, the Mishnah continues. For Kulan shehikra b'fnim v'shayir mahen kazayis. All this is only the case where a person is going to be makrev, do a kakrava b'chutz, a halah b'chutz of a kazayis on its own. But if he was makrev the entire, let's say, ketairis inside, but he left over one kazayis of it, and then he brings that last kazayis outside, chayiv, that would be, even according to Rabbi Elazar, would be maskim in that case that you chayiv, because that's all that's left, and that's a fully functional haktar. The Mishnah continues, "V'kulan shechasru kolshehu ve'krivu b'chutz pot." If any of these things are missing from them, meaning not that he just declines to bring it, but like Rashi says over here, if some part of it got destroyed, like we just quoted from Menachos, that if part of it is missing, you don't get to bring it. So if part of it was missing, so it's no longer able to be brought inside, so then a krivu b'chutz is going to be pot. Hamakriv kachim ve'emurim b'chutz chayiv. Someone who's makriv kachim, meaning basar of kachim, together with the emurim, which the Gemara explains is if you are makriv the emurim and it was less than a kazayas, but it had some or not even that, it was even, let's say it was more than kazayas, but it had some of the basar together with it, he's going to be chayiv, which is you're gonna have to explain why would you think it wouldn't be? Why is it different than just the kazayas that we've said before? This is again, this Mishnah has been talking about haktaras emurim, but legabe basar of emurim we said before that a kazayas shechayiv. So what would be the chiddush of it? But first we'll go back to the machlokes of the Tanakama and Rebbe Elazar. Tanaraban. So we bring a brisa. Mak the kazayis b'chutz chayiv. Someone is mak there kazayis b'chutz, you're chayiv. That sounds exactly like the Tanakama. Seems to be saying the din of the Tanakama. Chatzi pras b'fnim, and actually the Shittim Mugbetzes adds after the word kazayis, he says kazayis kataris. This brisa is talking about specifically kataris, which is why I was giving kataris as the example. So if someone was makter kazayis of the kataris is always larger than a kazayis. It has to be a shnei maloi chafnav, two chafnav. So if someone brings, I'm sorry, it's not shnei chafnav. That's just the Yom Kippur. The other one is a kaimitz. But in any case, I don't know how much the kataris is. That's the truth. I don't know exactly what the amount is. But in any case, hamakter kazayis of the kataris b'chutz, he's chayiv. Chatzi pras. I'm sorry. So the amount of the kataris of the daily kataris is a pras in the morning and a pras in the afternoon. So then if he took a chatzi pras b'fnim, he's pot because it's insufficient. So for the Gemara, this is hard to understand. We said amak the kazayis b'chutz is chayiv. So that seems like we're saying that, like the Tanakama,
right,
that you don't need the whole thing. We had said before that you could be chayiv for less, but Pashas now we're saying that you need the whole thing. You need a kazayis. You don't need the whole thing. Said amak kazayis b'chutz, even a kazayis is enough. So then why would you be chayiv? So chatzik pras b'fnim is potter. Kazalta my potter. What does it mean? You're potter of a chatzi zayis. So what does it mean? What'd you do wrong? My potter zar. It's saying that if a zar brought a half of a pras b'fnim, he's going to be potter. And now the Gemara is saying, amai. Why should you be potter if a zar brings which is a chatzi pras, which is more than a kazayis? Bifnim, why is he potter? The same way we're saying that if you bring a chatzi, a kazayis, a chutz, that's considered a hakrava. Why shouldn't this is more than a kazayis bifnim? Why shouldn't a zar be chayiv? So Amar of Zera, Amar of Chizda, Amar of Yirmiyah, Barabba, Amar of my potter tzibur. What it means when it says potter, it means that it potters the tzibur with this half a pras, so it all makes sense. We said when you bring a zayis b'chutz shechayiv, because that's considered a chashav ha'akrava, like Rashi explained in the Mishnah, because it would be the beginning of akrava. So too, if someone does bifnim, he's yaitza.
But according to this, right?
So at this point, we're saying that you are
if you're
being yaitza even with the kazayis. We're not saying that you need to bring the whole thing.
When Rabbi Elazar says you have to be makiv the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
As kulan, right?
So we're gonna get back to how we address the Mishnah. Because as I'll tell you right now, I'm not trying to hide it from you. We're going to say the Mishnah is talking about Yom Kippur, at least according to one shot, and on Yom Kippur you have to do bedavka the whole thing. That's why Rebbe Lazar is saying you have to do the entire thing in order to be chayiv. But the pras that you do during the week, the yitaka don't have to do the whole thing. There's no requirement that you do the entire pras in order to be yaitza. You could be yaitza even with a kazayas. Right? So we said that in the Mishnah because we're going to say it's talking about a different case than the Bryce. Amar Zeri kashli ha kashli. Hadar Amar Avallah Baha Afilu Rebeleza Moida. What's fair to me? Okay, that makes sense over there. But we said about this, so we could have understood our Mishnah that the Chacham hold taki only need a kazayas, and that's why you're going to be chayiv. And this Bryce is like the Chachamim who say you only need a kazayas, and Yitaka only need a kazayas to be yaitza your ketayers. But the problem is that Rav said that Rebbe Eliezer is moided to the second part of this brisa, the part that we said that the tzibur is yaitza with even a bifnim, even with a chatzi pras. Rebbe Eliezer says you need the full amount. The Rebbe Eliezer lav aktori. According to Rebbe Eliezer, it's not aktor. Lav aktori come. Amarava. So Rabba answers like we alluded to before. Everyone agrees that the Aktara Behechel, you don't need a full pras in order to be yaitza for the tzibur. And like we said in the Mishnah, that we don't need the full amount in order to be mechayev him. But that's what they're and so I'm saying that's what you'd understand the Brisa. The Brisa is talking about the Aktara the Heichel, and that everyone agrees that you're going to be yaitza, the tzibur is going to be yaitza, and if you bring a kazayis b'chutz, you're going to be chayiv. Keep pligi. Where did Rebbe Lazar and the Chachamim disagree? By Aktaris Tifnim, by Aktaris of Yom Kippur, the Marsav and Malay Chafna of Dafka. Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah said you're not going to be chayiv for bringing b'chutz the ketairis of Yom Kippur unless you did the entire shtei Malay Chafnav. So kazayis would not be enough. They say that Malay Chafnav is lav dafka. So therefore the Chacham disagree and they say it could be chayiv even for kazayis. Amalei Abaya. So Abaye objected. He said this just happens to be factually incorrect. The Torah says the lashon of chukah. As we know, chukah is a lashon of ma'akev, and it says this about the Yom Kippur ketairis. So therefore, what the Torah says about the Yom Kippur ketairis is ma'akev, including that you need malay chafna. So if Abaye says, going to have to answer a little differently. Elam Rabbi. Like Abaye just said, I will stand on what I just said, that you can't explain our Mishnah that the machlokes is by Haktaras Yom Kippur, because everyone will agree, the Chachamim would not disagree with Rebbe Eliezer. They would agree that you need a full Malay Chafnav to be mechayev him for Haktaras Chutz. Keep ligi b'aktaris the chutz. Well, everyone would agree. I didn't say that correctly. I'm sorry. B'aktaris tchnim kuliyamalei pligi. Everyone will agree that you only yaitza the aktara b'fnim, the aktara of Yom Kippur, when you do the entire thing. Keep ligi b'aktaris the chutz. But the question is, even though that's the case, that everyone agrees that the minimum amount to be yaitza is the full malay chafnav, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be chayiv aktaris chutz. Mar sava yafinam pnimi chutz. Like we said, everyone agrees that b'chutz meaning the Heichel Ketairis, the regular Ketairis, you only need a Kazayas. And therefore that tells you that in order to be Chayiv Bachutz, meaning bringing it to Halah Bachutz of the daily Ketairis, you only need a Kazayas. So, Rebbe, the Chachamim say, we will learn out when you maktir the Yom Kippur Ketairis Bachutz from the daily chutz, and therefore you'll also just be chayiv for kazayis. Rava objects to this. Amar Rava, hash lechutz michutz lo yalfi rabbanim, pnim michutz mibaya. As we're about to say, we don't learn out a different halah b'chutz from the halah b'chutz of the kazayis of ketairis of the heichel. So how could we say that? How could you suggest that you're going to learn out, that they say that you learn out the kazayis of the Yom Kippur ketairis? As we're going to see, where do we see that they don't learn out chutz michutz? Mahi, where do we see that? Detanya. Yachal hamala pachas mikazayis kaimitz, or pachas mikazayis emurim. Wow, my voice is really...
Yeah.
It's really rough. Detanya, Yachal hamala pachas mikazayis kaimitz, or pachas mikazayis emurim. I might say someone who brings less than a kazayis of kaimitz, or less than a kazayis of emurim, v'amanasech pachas mishalish lugan yayin, pachas migimel lugan mayin, or less than the 3 lugan of yayin that you bring with a mincha, or less than the gimel lugan of mayin that you bring on Yom Kippur, yechayiv tamid loy melasais. Al shom chayiv ve'ein chayiv ala chaser. Comes to tell you only chayiv if you bring the minimum amount that it's supposed to be brought as. V'pachas mishosh lugan. Now the first part, less than a kazayis, we understand. But why are we saying that you're not going to be chayiv on the lugan mayin and the lugan yayin? V'chas lugan the isbu kama zaysim. There are many kazaysim in it. And nevertheless, the Rabbanan don't learn it out from the kazayis of the Heichel's ketairis. So therefore, Rava is forced to say he disagrees with Abaya. That can't be the explanation. He says a different explanation. Elam Rava kegoin de kavinu shnei chatzoi pras b'mon. We're not talking about where he was just mekadesh the silas for the ketairis, that it became its ketairis, and he took a little bit of ketairis and he brought it outside. But rather, he already took the ketairis and he placed it in a klisharis to separate it, to prepare it to be hekter on the mizbeach hazav. So Mar Savar Kviyas Mana Milsi or Mar Sava Lav Milsi. The question over here is the Einachanami, certainly a kazayas would be enough to be mechayiv. But the problem is he was makdish it in a Rebbe Eliezer holds that since he was makdish in a kli, so therefore you have to do the entire thing that you separated in order for you to be chayiv on it. Umar Savalav Milsi. The other Mandama holds the Chachamim who disagree. He says you're only going to be chayiv for a kazayis because they disregard, even though you put it into a kli, you still could be yaitza with just a kazayis. According to the Chachamim, who say kviyas demana is we disregard it. Kava shisha lepar. If someone separated in a klisharis, the shisha, they're supposed to shisha lugin of the nesachim for a par, which is chatzi ahin for par equals shisha lugin. Umashach mehen arba, and then he took off 4 of them. Vekrivan b'chutz, and he brings it outside his chayiv. Shuyin la'ayil, because even though he had intended to bring it for a par, you just need 4 for an ayil, and that's sufficient. Now, that's only good according to the Mandam Kviyas the man of Klumu, according to the Rabbanim, because according to them, even though you separated the shisha and intended to use it for par, it can later on become for an aisle, and therefore when you bring it outside, you're going to be chayiv. Same thing, if you prepare for an aisle, 4, you bring 3, it's still good for a kevis. However, if it was missing any part, if it was mu'ubid, if any part was destroyed, then he's going to be potter. Because the lesson shlosh lugin has no use at all. Rav Ashi Yama. So that's just we were pointing out that this will the question, the way Rav understands the machlekes, will have this outcome in this other question. Rav Ashi returns to, he answers Rav's kasha on Abaya, that Abaya had said that you learn out chutz michutz, and Rav said, but we see that why don't we learn out chutz michutz to tell you?
Pnim michutz we learned.
He said right. He said we learn out pnim michutz because we don't learn out chutz michutz.
Right. How can you learn?
So how could you learn out chutz mipnim?
If you only
Chutz mipnim if you don't learn chutz michutz.
Right.
So Rav Ashi Amar nisach me'aktara lo yalfi rabban. He says there's a difference. We wanted to say, we said hamanasach palchas mishloish lugin. Why aren't you chayiv v'kazais? That's nisach. Nisach from aktara, the rabbanon don't learn. Avagav the chutz michutz lo yalfi. Aktara me'aktara yalfi. Avagav the chutz mipnim. I'm not sure I'm reading this right. So nisach me'aktara lo yalfi rabban. Avagav the chutz michutz. Yeah, I think they. Yeah, the sheet that takes out the words. Lo yalfi. Avagav the chutz michutz. Haktara me'aktara yalfi. Avagav the pnim michutz. You can learn out. You don't learn out nisach from haktara, the different types of things, even though they're both chutz michutz. So don't bring me a kasha. Why didn't we say that you should be chayiv for even a kazayis of the nisach? That's nisach. That's a different thing than aktara. But we will learn out the aktara of Yom Kippur from the aktara of the daily aktara, because they're both aktara. Okay, the Mishnah continued. V'kulon shechasru kol shehu v'kriva b'chutz pater. We said anyone that's missing anything, it's going to be pater. Zok the Gemara. Ibayilhu. Chisaron nekchutz shmei chisaron aloi shmei chisaron. Meaning, if you have one of these haktaras, the mincha or the ktaris, where it was mechusar, it was ma'ovid after it was already brought outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Meaning, until now, we're assuming that until now we were talking about where it happened inside the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara is going to explain what the chiluk is. Aloi shmei chisaron. Mi amrinin kiven nenofik ifsalahu mali chasa mali yasa. This din of chasar that it passels it passels the carbon because you're missing part of what you need to be mocked there. But this anyway, you brought it outside the Beis Hamikdash. You're not allowed to take it outside. Once it's outside, it can't be brought anyway. So what do you care if you pile on a second problem with it? Or maybe no, that which we say the Torah said that even when you brought it outside, you can still be chayiv for halah, even though the yoitza is still is passing it. But that's only if what you brought out is what you had lechatchila. That was a kosher hakrava, a kosher aktara. But once it's reduced, you don't have what you had at the beginning. Amr Abai, so I want to bring right. Toshma, Rebbe Eliezer poita achi Yaakov es kulam. Rebbe Eliezer patters until you bring the whole thing. So you see that he's saying that once it's missing anything, it's not going to be good. Correct the Gemara. That's obviously a problematic question. Only Rabba Barachan and Labaya Midr Eliezer Pashat Mar. So this question was all according to the Rabbanan. We're going to the Rabbanan who say you could even be chayiv on a kazayis, but we say that you're going to be chayiv. Maybe you'll be potter when you're ma'abed part of it, but certainly according to Rebbe Eliezer, you're not going to be chayiv. Amalei, the fair shmila minei the Rav atkan lepigur rabban aled Rebbe Eliezer ela de isabein aval b'chasaron moidele. He says the reason why I'm saying is because I know that Rav says that the Chama maskim that where it's mechusser, they'll be agree with Rebbe Eliezer that you're not going to be chayiv. My lav the chaser b'chutz. Doesn't that mean if it was missing, even if it lost something outside, which the Rishonim address, like mechatesa, why would we say this in order to bring a raya? Because it would make perfect sense if it's only inside, not outside, according to Rabban. It's like the chaser b'fnim. Toshma, we see taka v'kul shechaser b'kim b'chutz potter lav the chaser b'chutz loy the chaser b'fnim. Want to bring a raya from that from our Mishnah also? It's talking about the chaser b'fnim. Hamakriv Kochim. The Mishnah said that if Hamakriv Kochim ve'emurim b'chutz chayev, which Rashi had explained in the Mishnah, who was it? Shehikriv habasa ve'emurim mechubarim by chayev mishum emurim. If he brings emurim together with basa, he's going to be chayev. Zok the Gemara. Amai. Why is he chayiv for being makar of these emurim b'chutz, which you're not allowed to do? That's halal, right? Being basa b'chutz, you're not chayiv for. You're chayiv for the emurim. V'ika chatzitza, the basar is interfering. It's not allowing it to touch the mizbeach. We're talking about where he turned it over so that the chel of the emurim went directly on the mizbeach. Even without that, but mani Rav Shimni the amar afilu helu ala salachayiv. We're going according to the mandamar of the previous Mishnah, who said you don't need to be mala on a mizbeach. You can mala on any surface. So it doesn't make a difference if it's on basar. It's not any worse than doing it on the ground or on a rock. Rav Amar, third teretz, min b'minai and chaytzitz. He says min b'minai is not chaytzitz. We will anyway. We'll just disregard this this extra bit of basar. Okay, it's 9:03. Should we do one more Mishnah?
It's up to you. I feel that your voice sounds like it's cracking, but
we could do one more. It's a short Mishnah.
All right.
Okay, it's like the Mishnah. We have so much to make up. Like I'm going to have to do one blot in the morning, try to do 1.5 in the morning and one at night. It's like the Mishnah. Mincha shalei nikmitza. Ve'kriva b'chutz pot. If you have a mincha, which you did take away the kmitza, and you bring it b'chutz, then you potter for obvious reasons. It's not something that's royal mizbeach at all. You need a kmitza first. Kamtza v'chaza v'kamtza. We're only saying it's an introduction to this next thing. If you separated the kaimet, so it's royal mizbeach, and then you mix it back together with the rest of the silas v'kriva b'chutz, and then he makar b'chutz yichayev because you have within what you are makar of the kaimets. I guess it would probably. I wonder why we don't have the same discussion like we just had at the last thing. Let's say the kaimets is being interfered with going on the mizbech. I guess we know there are 3 answers for that. But the Gemara asks a different question. V'amai levatlu shirayim l'kaimets. The shirayim l'chayra are more than the kaimets. Let's say the roiv is mevatel the miyat, and the kaimet should be disregarded, and you shouldn't be chayiv. Amar zeira nemer haktara b'kaimetz.
But the shirayim you're allowed to bring out be mark of b'chutz?
I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to, but it's not something that's royal mizbeach that gets eaten by the kahanim. Gets eaten by kahanim. So it says haktara b'kaimetz. It says haktara legabi the kaimetz. And it says also haktara legabe the shirayim. That it says that that something that they so ma haktara b'kaimetz ein kaimetz mevatel chaveri. And just so we make a We make a, I guess, a Gzeir Shava. I don't know if it's Aktara or a Binyanav. Mahak Taurus Kaimitz. Ain't Kaimitz Mevatel Chave, right? Just like if you were to mix together the Kaimitz of two separate minchas, we know it's brought in Minachas that one is not going to be Mevatel the other. You can bring both of them and be Yaitse Yechiv and it'll get a kapara. Avak Torah Shirayim ain't Shirayim Mevatel Kaimitz. So too, the Shirayim will learn out from a Kaimitz that it's not going to be Mevatel a Kaimitz. So we have a pasuk, basically a lima that tells you it's not Mevatel. Okay, I'll stop over here because I'm becoming increasingly, even to my own ears, I'm hard to listen to.